Hello, everyone, and welcome in. My name is Bryce Koon, Ralph Leary, and Will Manis joining me here in just a second as we get ready to talk college football. We're almost in the swing of things fully here. Ralph Leary says he's first. He's banned automatically. Go back to work. We're going to be talking a little bit college football playoff sleepers. Hit the sub button, lock it in on tonight's episode of The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
We'll welcome you in. It is the crew here on a Monday night. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just, 12 days away from the start of college football. Let's kick it off with first. Will, it's been you and I a lot, so I'm going to kick it off with Ralph. Ralph, how does it feel to be a part of a show? Like just to maybe be a part of something bigger than yourself here tonight?
Wow. Okay. Well, I was part of a show earlier today. You got some little hate comments in that one earlier today. Already starting off the day right, you know?
Yeah. You know what? Andy says, what's up? Key to success, Rutgers week schedule, definitely sleepers.
Cover wagon, we agree.
There we go. And then Brandon James says, what's up, buddy? How you doing, Brandon? Welcome to the show. I'm pumped. Will, I know you're pumped too. Will hates Georgia Tech. That is very much true.
Can confirm.
Sources do confirm. And Will, how are you feeling? 12 days away from week 0. Massive game on the slate, 8 p.m. Eastern, SMU, Nevada. Going to be a wild one. That's what we're all going to be tuned into. Now, obviously, we're going to have the noon kickoff too there.
You say that, but I'm going to be tuned into it.
I'm
Montega, go ahead and throw your computer out the window because it's coming, buddy.
SMU. All right.
Go ahead.
We'll have to see. Jonesy said, Will said Petty is really a 2-star. Obviously, big news on the channel if you weren't tuning in.
Yeah.
About 5 hours ago, Josh Petty, the 5-star, commits to Georgia Tech. Go check out that video. But tonight we're talking playoff sleepers. And how we're going to do this is we are going to – I just want to say this too. This is going to be bad. Knowing Montega's profession, I almost made a crucifixion joke here. Would not have been good though.
Gosh.
I don't know. That was really bad. I don't even know why. That's like just almost said it. That's Montega. I don't think you should watch the rest of the show because I don't know why I did that.
It's from Bryce all night.
It's Bruce. Okay,
Sorry,
let's lock it in here. Let's lock it in here. Tonight we're talking college football playoff sleepers. We're going to rock and roll with. We each have a team that is from each individual conference. And that's where we're going to go. So we'll see. And we got Wemo 13 here already asking the hard-hitting questions. Tune in Thursday night. That's all I got to tell you. Sundays and Thursdays, or tune in Thursday night. Sundays and Thursdays, we're talking Tech. Tonight's just college football. What conference you guys want to start with?
Well, I had it in order.
Yeah, let's start at the top.
If you want to go
SEC.
in order, we can.
Okay, we are going to start in the SEC. We're going to take sleeper teams. Every single one of us is going to kind of build our case, and then we'll throw it to the other two guys. So, Ralph, I don't even know who's first. I haven't looked at the banners. Who is first when it comes to this?
Me, Will, you. So
It is Ralph.
It's A&M.
Ooh. All right, now all these odds are per bet online, by the way.
Right.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, I'm going A&M. I think, we're talking about a team that has some of the most incredible talent out there. Year in, year out, with some of the best facilities, a crazy good fan base, and a hard place to play at home. Now you bring in a coach who can actually work with this, who actually can do stuff with it, who can change what the last few years have been there for A&M. I mean, we went from a 9-3 team a few years ago that we thought could compete for a top 4 spot that was lackluster the next 2 years. I mean, you're talking about teams that had some of the best recruiting classes we've ever seen out of Texas A&M. And it did nothing with them. They've lost most of those guys because they transferred out. But Mike Elko is a different kind of coach there. And I think with what he's got going on there, what the defense he's going to create there, Texas A&M is a scary team to play on the road and or at home. And they're a sleeper. I mean, I say that because, the odds are there. The SEC maybe not be as dominant this year. I mean, everyone's really good this year, but the SEC is going to beat up on each other this year. So A&M might be able to like slip out for that bottom side and just say, hey, be a good 8 or 9 spot.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that, Ralph. I think when we look at the SEC, we look in general. I mean, obviously, there's the teams that are at the top, and look. I mean, we mentioned this in our tiers episode. Elko, I think, is going to bring stability to the program. I think we talked about that. I like this pick and we're not talking potential SEC champion here. I mean, you could, but this is obviously looking at can they just make the playoff? If A&M, if Connor Wegman stays healthy, that's like the biggest storyline for them in general. Like if Wegman stays healthy, I think they've got a shot as good as anybody to kind of claim one of those, I'll say third or maybe even fourth spots that the SEC might be able to get in that 12-team playoff. Will, any thoughts on Ralph's pick there?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said, Bryce. I think Connor Wegman is quietly one of the, can we say, top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC. I think he's that good.
When healthy, yeah.
I think when healthy, he's that good. Looking at A&M's schedule compared to the rest of the SEC, it's pretty easy. They get Missouri at home, they get LSU at home, and they get Texas at home. Those are their 3 biggest conference games, their 3 biggest tests in the SEC, and they got them all at home. And we know Kyle Field is a really good home field advantage. So can they just hold serve there? They do open with Notre Dame, which there's already been injury questions with Notre Dame, so we'll see if that affects them in week 1.
I forgot that A&M has lost Ruben Owens. They're starting running back this year for the rst.
Yes, they did. But I like the depth at A&M. I like the depth A&M has at running back.
I agree.
I think they can weather that storm. But I like this pick, Ralph. I think I like it better than my pick, mainly because A&M is a true sleeper, I think, to make the playoff. Nobody's really expecting much from them.
Really say, Will, that you did also pick A&M, but
I did to begin with. Yeah,
we did choose other teams.
Yeah, we did try to keep this for, we did let each other know that who we were picking first so we can have a little bit of variety. But you know what? I think A&M, nationally, I think they'll end the season as a top 25 team. Le'Veon Moss is going to be the guy that we'll probably be seeing taking carries there at the running back position in lieu of Ruben Owens. Very, very good.
Le'Veon Moss is really good.
They lost a lot too. And I'll say this, when I was in Dallas last month, I was talking with some people who cover A&M and especially our 24/7 guys, and they were like, they lost a lot of name value, but they still have good players. Like you lost Walter Nolan, but they brought in the kid from, I believe, Purdue is going to be one of their pass rushers this year. And you still have, Nick Scorton. Keep an eye on Nick Scorton. You still have both Shamars and Shamar Stewart and Shamar Turner. Like they're going to be solid. I think defensively, A&M is going to be very good. And then can Wegman stay healthy? No reason. So, all right, that's Ralph's SEC sleeper. Let's move on now to Will's SEC sleeper. I think we had a comment about it already, Will. So you've got a fan down there. Your thoughts on Missouri?
Yeah, I'm taking Missouri, and they're plus 175 to make the playoff. I asked y'all before, are they really a sleeper? Because those odds are pretty good for them to make the playoff. Their schedule is not very difficult. This is just mentioned. They do have to go to A&M. They get Oklahoma at home, and they have to go to Alabama. So 2 tough road games against 2 really good teams in A&M and Alabama. Their next hardest game will be at home against Oklahoma. But I mean, we all know the SEC is a gauntlet. You can't take any weeks off. I wouldn't call their schedule easy, but I would definitely say it's manageable. I think they can easily get to 9 to 10 wins. I love their offense. I love what they've got coming back. Brady Cook, he threw for over 3,000 yards last year. Luther Burden, that dude, you got to put 2 guys on him at all times. But that's tough because behind him, Theo Weiss and Mookie Cooper both come back. Really like their tight end, Brett Norfleet, that really came on strong at the end of the year as a freshman last year. Running the ball, I think it might be a struggle for them. They lose Cody Schrader. He was the SEC's leading rusher last year. But I like what Eli Drinkwitz did in the transfer portal. Went and got Marcus Carroll from Georgia State and Nate Noel from App State. You're not going to get that production from one guy. Again, I don't think that's asking too much, I think. And I really like those 2 backs. He got 2 of the better running backs in the Sun Belt. They got to replace defensive coordinator. Their new one's Corey Batoon. Bryce, their old DC pretty well now. You're getting to know him pretty well. but they got a lot of production coming back at every position. Like I said, I think this is a team that can win 9 to 10 games and make the playoff.
Also, too, defensively for Missouri, yeah, they lose Blake Baker, but they still have Johnny Walker, Christian Williams, Chuck Hicks, Joseph Charleston as veterans on this defense. They bring in Toriano Pride, the transfer from Clemson, who gets to come back home, originally from the St. Louis area. And then you mentioned, I think, and I'm just going to put this out here, I think this is the best wide receiver room in the conference. When you look at, at the top 3 guys, Theo Weiss Jr., Mookie Cooper, and Luther Burden, Will, you mentioned, are you going to be able to double team Luther Burden because of the other 2 guys? I don't know if you are. I don't know. You're going to have to play some man coverage, and I don't know if they can play man coverage. Also, trivia question before I throw it to Ralph and his thoughts on Missouri. Do you know who the backup quarterback is in Missouri?
Is it Sam Horn still?
Drew Pine.
Yeah.
Former Notre Dame and I believe Arizona State last season quarterback. So it's always fun. Always fun. It could not be more incorrect. Yeah. Montega says, I don't know, Bryce. I hate to say it. UGA did bring some studs in. I do agree. I'll say it's top heavy in terms of what Missouri has, but Weiss, Cooper, and Burden in terms of proven guys at their current program. Continuity, I like it a little bit better, but I do agree with you there, Montega. Ralph, your thoughts on Will's SEC sleeper pick?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree because I think what Will says is true, and I agree with both of y'all saying that this is the best wide receiver room in the SEC. I think in the next few years it's going to be completely different, but you got a veteran group, a good quarterback who has done an incredible year last year. A team, I mean, they were a sleeper team last year that no one even thought of. Missouri came out of nowhere and just started beating people, and no one really expected them to do it. But now we're expecting it, so you're not really getting caught off guard this year. So I like what they did. I like who they brought in to replace Cody Schrader with Marcus Carroll. That's a beast of a running back from Georgia State, man. I tell you, Georgia State's got some pretty talented guys there. Luther Burden,
two of the Sun Belt's best running backs now play at Missouri. We'll put it that way.
And I'll say this: Luther Burden is not just the best receiver in the SEC. I think he's the best receiver in the country. I think returning wise, what he did last year and what he has the ability to do this year, their offense obviously is going to be a high scoring offense, high caliber, and they're a scary team to play no matter who they are or who they're going against, honestly.
Yeah, no, I like Missouri. I was tempted to not put them as a sleeper because I think Missouri's going to make the playoff potentially anyways. But could they challenge for that SEC championship, appearance? I think they could find themselves. That schedule's very manageable, especially when you look at who Ole Miss has to play, who Georgia has to play, who Texas has to play, all the different programs. Missouri kind of avoids a lot of the big fish. They do play Alabama, but we'll kind of see how it goes. All right, we're going to go to mine. And Will, I don't know if I'm drinking the Kool-Aid because you've been there and you're going back again this week. I'm taking Auburn as my SEC sleeper, and I just want people to hear me out. Okay, this is where I'm going with this. If Peyton Thorne can be dynamic enough, there's no reason that this offense cannot be good. The offensive line should be better. The wide receiver room, while young and inexperienced in terms of being at Auburn, they have talent. Like Keandre Lambert-Smith should be good. Robert Lewis, the Georgia State transfer, should be good. Cam Coleman is probably, when we talk about, a lot of times we talk about true freshmen having a learning curve, stuff like that. Like, I think Cam Coleman's going to buck the trend and just be a dude from day one. I think he's going to be that. Perry Thompson's obviously in that. You have Camden Brown, who's a veteran player, hasn't really popped off like I think Auburn fans want him to. But maybe now that he's not thrust into a role where he has to be the guy, he can be one of those auxiliary pieces. That's a better fit for him. And then obviously you have the versatile Sam Jackson, which I think that Hugh Freeze could dial up some plays for just in terms of what he could do. But I really do like the potential of Auburn in 2024. It all hinges on Peyton Thorne, though. Defensively, they should be good. I like the combination of Charles Kelly with DJ Durkin. I think those are two veteran guys that understand what it takes to build a good defense. So really, and Will and I've talked about this on our Auburn-specific shows and episodes, and we talked about it with Jake Crane as well, and we're going to be obviously talking about it more and more through the fall. It's You have all the pieces, skill position talent's there. The offensive line needs to be better. Your defense needs to be disruptive, but it all hinges on Peyton Thorne. If Thorne can be dynamic, a little bit above a game manager, why can't Auburn be the 11th or 10th seed in the playoff? You start to kind of look at that schedule. You really should be 3-0 rolling into, or I should say, you should be 4-0 rolling into your first home or your second home conference game against Oklahoma. Like, you should beat Arkansas. If you can beat Oklahoma, yeah, you might drop the game at Georgia, but then you have an opportunity for a resume builder at Missouri. You're going to play A&M and Alabama. I think you could take care of Kentucky on the road. You could beat Vanderbilt. You beat ULM. But let's say you get to 9-3, or let's say you roll into the Iron Bowl at 9-2, and you drop that game. Depending on what happens, maybe a 9-3 Auburn team, challenges for that kind of spot. Maybe a 10-2. I think a 10-2 Auburn team is probably the 10th or 11th seed. But it all hinges on Peyton Thorne. Can you find consistency? Is it not an up and down roller coaster? And maybe, Will, I'll hand it off to you, and you can speak to this. Maybe Thorne's still going to have to use his legs, but if he's not timid in throwing the ball and putting into positions now that he has dudes at the wide receiver position, maybe that was a problem last year. And I know I just asked you a question that you could go into a whole podcast episode about, but I think that part was the problem. Now he's got dudes that if the trust and chemistry is there, maybe he's not scared to throw it in the tight window or on the one-on-one coverage or the back shoulder fade, because they've got some dudes that really can play at this level, and it's a talented, maybe unproven bunch in Auburn. But I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking that Auburn could maybe find themselves in entering the month of November with a playoff spot on the line?
In short, yes. But no, you make good points. I mean, that's been talked about. We heard, I heard wide receivers coach Marcus Davis kind of allude to it last week. Last year, Peyton Thorne, there was a lot of pressure on him with that group of receivers. He had to put the ball in the perfect spot, and they still didn't always catch it. So he's got a much better group to throw to, should make him a lot more comfortable. But my biggest concern, man, going to Georgia, Auburn hadn't won there in a long time. Go to Alabama. Auburn hadn't won there since 2010. And really have only been competitive over there a handful of times since 2010. I got to go to Missouri, a team that we think is going to make the playoff. I know I called them a sleeper, but I think that they're close to a lock. They should be there. They got to go to Kentucky, a team that you put out there is going to finish above Auburn in the SEC.
I did.
Put it out there. But really, to me, the biggest question marks are on that defense, especially on the defensive line and in the secondary. A lot of youth and inexperience in the secondary. Defensive line, losing Marcus Harris, I think, is going to be a huge loss. It's going to make it even tougher for Auburn to stop the run. You still have to do that in the SEC. I know everybody spreads it out, 5 wide receivers all the time, but you still got to stop the run. Hopefully, Indiana transfer Philip Bleedy can fill that Marcus Harris hole, but that's going to be tough because Marcus Harris, I know he wasn't drafted very high, but that's a dude that's going to play on Sundays and probably will play on Sundays for quite a while. So that's a big hole. I think Auburn should be better. I mean, looking at the schedule, you got to have 8 wins. And, it's kind of funny. I was thinking when you said that 2017, Auburn very closely became the first team to, and would have been the only team to make the 4-team playoff with 2 losses. Could Auburn be the first and maybe only team to make it with 4 losses, sneak in there at 8-4? It might could happen because Auburn plays a hard schedule, but I don't see it. I think you see it. You're more confident than me. But should be better, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
And for any Auburn fans that come across this portion of it, Will's going to be out at practice and out at some media sessions this week for more details, and we'll have a show about that as well. Ralph, any thoughts on Auburn here? I know Will and I kind of summed it up, but just maybe anything that we missed. I will throw in there, Will didn't mention him, but Isaiah Rakes, another guy that they brought in through the portal, who I think that everyone sees as a physical specimen. So your thoughts on that?
I just want to shout out Dev, obviously, new member.
Let's go.
Just got to give him a little shout out. Thank you.
Dev finally got that job, and now he decided to help us out. So shout out to Dev for getting the full-time job, becoming a working man, and obviously now supporting the show. Anyways.
I just want to say I agree, though, with Bryce, with your first statement. It's got to be on Peyton Thorne. It has to start with him. Do we know what's behind Peyton Thorne is able to, lead this team? We don't know. You got a true freshman with Walker White. You got Holden Gainer, who hadn't really had enough playing time. You got Hank Brown, who balled out in the bowl game and scrap time. So you got that's your question mark. Can Peyton Thorne beat him? We don't know. I think with the running back room, the receivers, obviously super talented. You got Fairweather coming back. That's a freak athlete. Just, I mean, you watched him last year. He was probably the shining star receiving wise for Auburn last year, which is not a good thing when your tight end is, unless it's Brock Bowers. Obviously, that's a different story. But yeah, so Auburn's offense really needs to be the big answer. It's a Hugh Freeze offense. It's you're expecting to be high scoring, not lackluster, not getting held to below 10 points. So this is year 2. I think the question marks from last year are going to be answered. Can Peyton Thorne be him? I believe so. I think with Cam Coleman obviously being a true freshman, but a freak athlete also. So I'm excited for Auburn, but I don't know if I can keep him as a sleeper just because it's still too early for me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. SEC. That's our look at the SEC, and it's a fun one. That's a fun one. All right, next conference, which I don't know what it is, so I think we're rolling
ECC.
ECC. Okay, so this is where we're going with this one.
This is the fun segment.
Well,
This can be a lot of fun.
Me and Will got some stretches. Not really, but Bryce, yours is the closest one. Yours is legit the closest.
In terms of betting odds?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey,
okay.
Look, we're talking about sleepers here. Me and Ralph got some. I've got a snoozer for the playoffs.
Again,
Ralph's got a sleeper.
If you pick Pitt, I'm leaving. I'll just say that. Right.
I didn't pick Pitt.
Okay. If you put Pitt down, I'm leaving.
Back-to-back conferences to pick the same team, but we had
still
had to choose someone different.
So okay,
we did.
You want me to go first, or do you? How you want to?
Well, I'm starting off. We're going to SMU, obviously. Why not? This is the SMU fan show. Why would we not be here? Look, SMU is a fun team to be around.
You can't see it, but Ralph or Bryce got up and walked off.
That's not even the worst one, Bryce. The next one's worse.
The next one's worse.
No, I like what Pitt's what SMU's done this offseason. Rhett Lashley is a recruiting monster at this point right now. He is just killing it in the recruiting field. He's building his roster. He's got a great quarterback with Preston Stone. He's got Jalen Knight in it running back. This team's going to be fun to watch. I think they have been the powerhouse of the group of 5 schools the past few years, and then finally make the jump to a Power 4 conference. Yeah, they're ready. This is the conference they can compete in. I think they can play very well in. I don't think their schedule, holds too much for them to not be able to win enough games to sneak into the playoffs. I mean, you will have a chance to go 5-0, 4-0 entering Florida State. And if you keep it close to Florida State and or upset them, you're talking about a team that could, compete and go to Charlotte, possibly. I think SMU's going to be fun. I like what they've done this year. I'm really excited to watch them play in the ACC finally. So, yeah. Bryce is muted.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that schedule, it's not super challenging to miss a lot of the big dogs in the ACC, and I think that's
easy.
I will tell you this. I think this guy needs to get his head checked. I don't know what we're doing here. I think Charlotte's the floor, like for real. Look, Preston Stone, veteran quarterback. I do think that this is a guy who is perfect for a transitional year when you make this jump. He's played a lot of football. I don't know that it's a super high ceiling for Preston Stone, but I think it's a very high floor in terms of the play you're going to get. I don't know how dynamic he's going to be, but, Rhett Lashley, I'm excited to kind of see what he is. I think that this is a team that I'd say the floor is the middle of the pack in the ACC. That's where I sit. But plus 1,000, to be by the way, is this playoff odds? These are straight up playoff odds to make the playoffs. So that's not. I'd throw 5 or 10.
The next one's worse.
I might have to get a loan, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to see this next one. But SMU, I like that one. Will, any thoughts on SMU before we move on?
Look, I love Rhett Lashley. I think this dude is certainly on a path to be a superstar head coach. I think he's got it. Schedule is easy. Hardest game is Florida State. They get him at home. They do have a tricky one. They go to Louisville. I would expect that to be a night game. That'll be tough. We've seen Louisville night games. They get up for them, and it'll be fun. And SMU gets to right the opportunity to right a wrong in November. They get to play Boston College again after they lost to them in the Fenway Bowl. So some
without Preston Stone, by the way.
Yes, Preston Stone did not play in the ball game. So some interesting matchups. I think that Duke matchup is another interesting one. They go to Duke.
They have three straight away games, by the way. Louisville, Stanford, Duke.
Yep.
They don't play a home game from September 28th all the way to November 2nd, which is kind of crazy.
That's a lot of travel miles right there, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, to go from Louisville to Stanford back to Duke, that's some brutal travel. But I'm with you. They are, to me, probably the fourth pick for me in the ACC to make the title game, just because I think Clemson and Florida State are really that much above everybody. I think Miami's a bit of a step ahead of SMU, but I would put SMU right there at 4, maybe 5 with Louisville. But I really like SMU. I think they're good. I think of all the teams to make a jump to a bigger conference, I think they were the most ready that we've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, there was an opposing ACC coach that spoke on this. There was a nice article that went about kind of new teams, and he said, this is not your typical – this is the quote. These guys are ready for the ACC, honestly. This isn't a traditional G5 team moving up. They do have to rebuild that offensive line, and it isn't great, so that could be a concern. But having a quarterback like Stone is going to help a lot with that. It's the trenches. That's when I think they could get into trouble there against Florida State, maybe Louisville, maybe Duke to a certain extent. But this is a team that I think could win 7-8 games, maybe 9. And is 9 wins enough to get you to Charlotte? Maybe. I don't know if 9 wins without an ACC title is enough to get you, especially with their schedule, to the playoffs. But plus 1,000 is going to be interesting. So
that's good value.
Okay. Now I think I know where we're going with this next one, and.
Guess who it is, because you haven't looked at
it. Did I or did I not just get off a messaging exchange with the defensive coordinator? That's all I need to know of this team.
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll put the team up.
You did. I would be shocked.
Yeah, I think he did. Maybe.
All right, I did. All right, keep going.
Hey, look, Dev said it earlier. I got targets on my back, and I'm ready for some more. I'm taking North Carolina. Now, we've talked in the past a bit about North Carolina, a little bit on the show. Max Johnson transfers in there to battle for the quarterback job. I think he'll win it. Bryce confirming. Back there in the background. Max Johnson comes in to compete for the quarterback job. I think he'll win it. I really like Max Johnson. Bryce isn't so high on Max Johnson. I like him a lot. I think he's a gamer. He's played well everywhere he's been at LSU and Texas A&M. He's won games. He kept Texas A&M from the bottom falling out and being maybe the worst team in the FBS last year. I had a really good stretch, came into that game against Auburn after Auburn knocked out Connor Wegman and just torched Auburn. Just torched us. You look at North Carolina's schedule, it's manageable. I mean, they have to go to Florida State in November. That's tough. Obviously, they finish up with NC State, but they get to host, the team that I just learned a couple months ago has owned them, which was a shock to me, in Georgia Tech. They get Georgia Tech at home. But offense hasn't been the problem for North Carolina. I don't think it will be. I think it will take a step back because they are losing Drake May. He had a rough first preseason game, but there's a reason that guy was drafted. What was he drafted? 3rd overall. Was a great quarterback for North Carolina. So I think they will take a step back, but their receiver room is still good. They still have Amari and Hampton.
It's probably the best running back not named Ollie Gordon in the country, by the way.
I would agree with that. Amari and Hampton, if he's not the best running back in the ACC, he's the second best, I would say. Nate McCollum's still there, former Georgia Tech transfer. But everybody knows the problem has been the defense. Gene Chizik out, Jeff Collins in. I know how we feel about Jeff Collins. At least our viewers feel about Jeff Collins. The dude can flat out coach defense. He's going to come in there. He's changing the scheme. I think they're going to be a lot more aggressive on defense. And, he's going to put those guys in position to make plays. They had a small transfer class. So there probably won't be a whole lot of new faces outside of Max Johnson, and his brother, Jake Johnson, comes in at tight end. But on the defensive side of the ball, they bring in, let me pull up his name so I don't get it wrong. Jakeem Harris from NC State comes in at safety to help help out in the secondary. They get Ole Miss transfer defense tackle Joshua Harris to plug in the middle and be the anchor on that defensive line. They've got good edge rushers, Desmond Evans and Bo Atkinson to rush the passer. They've got pieces. They've got pieces to improve on defense. They've got to be a lot better. I said it. They're a snoozer to make the playoff, as you can see, plus 3,700 according to Bet Online. It's going to be tough, but I like their schedule. I think they can manage that. They can make some noise. If they can sneak into Charlotte, I don't think that's that far-fetched.
Yeah. Look,
I see.
this.
Look, I don't have the comments pulled up, but there's been about 25 since I started talking, so I'm interested to catch up here while y'all.
There's one
I'll
from
tell
the
you-
crowded booth. It's a wild one.
That one, was not me.
I'll say this: they have a lot of veteran talent on the defense, and Mac Brown parted with longtime friend, obviously, in Gene Chizik. You bring in Jeff Collins, who has a lot of energy, who that defense is going to be trying to fly around and make moves. And look, you have guys like you mentioned, Kamon Rucker he's a dude. Like Kamon Rucker is a dude for them, regardless of what defensively they're going to put out as a unit. That individually, that guy's a dude. Power Eccles at the linebacker position, Elijah Hussey, Marcus Allen, DeAndre Boykins. Like you have veterans, and if I'm looking at this correctly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of your 11 starters are upperclassmen. Now, these are projected starters. So he's got talent to work with. The question is going to be, is it enough to make a difference? And I'll even say this, we'll go offensively. The pressure's got to be on Chip Lindsey. Like, I know that you don't have an NFL first round pick or starting caliber quarterback at the position. But Will, you say I'm not high on Max Johnson. I would say it's more, I think he has a high floor. I just don't know how dynamic he is going to be in terms of like a top 3 quarterback in the conference. But I think he's got a high floor. So I don't know. I think that the pressure's got to be on Chip Lindsey to be able to perform. You cannot waste another ridiculous season from Omarion Hampton. And so we'll see. We'll see. I mean, 3,700 is an interesting bet. Like, you look at that schedule, I mean, they really don't play anybody all year until you really get to, they host Georgia Tech on October. Like they could be undefeated heading into October 12th against Georgia Tech.
They could.
And let's don't forget too, like last season, they dropped a mind-numbing game to Virginia. They then dropped the game to Georgia Tech, where before that they were on their way to a great season. So they're seemingly becoming that team that can't get out of their own way. There was a term for this in the ACC 15, 20 years ago. It's called Clemsoning. They're doing that. Like they cannot get out of their own way. Does that change in 2024? Maybe it does. I don't know. 3,700 though. That's interesting. Ralph, any thoughts on this one?
No, I look. I like what UNC's got done this year. Obviously, you lost with Drake May there, but Omarion Hampton's still, I think, the best running back, one of the best running backs in the country. Obviously, besides Ollie Gordon and others. But UNC, just, like you said, Bryce, they got to stop beating themselves. I mean, you watch Tech last year, that game. They had it easily won if they just could make a few stops. They couldn't. They just could not stop Georgia Tech's offense, and I think that with a change of defense, a coordinator, and new schemes, new guys in there, it's going to be a little different for them this year. I think the offense can still be as impressive as it was the past few years. So, can they, make a few changes on defense to win a game? Hopefully, they can. I mean, I believe so. Jeff Collins may not be the greatest head coach, but he's a terrific defense coordinator.
Yeah.
And it goes underrated that he is a great defense coordinator.
Yeah.
I just got one thing to say. Respect the drip. I mean, look at that. Carolina. If you don't like Carolina blue, you need to do some soul searching.
That is a fire hat. I will say that. That hat's
I love
pretty
that
sick.
hat. I would wear that.
Okay, well, let's just move on to my ACC team. I'm staying inside the state, and I'm going for a team that when you look at what they did in the portal at NC State, plus 425, Rouse said I had the closest odds. This is a program that I think with the addition of Grayson McCall said, we're going to win now, right now. Like, we think that there's an opportunity. We think that there is an opportunity, and I'm getting I see that comment. We think there's an opportunity to go win the conference. Like Clemson may not be as talented, but we've shown that we can beat them. Florida State lost a lot. There's some transition. Is Miami ever going to live up to the hype? And NC State and Dave Doran said, well, why not us? And, I was looking into this as I get ready to do my Georgia Tech season predictions on Thursday night. That game when NC State travels to Atlanta on a Thursday night is going to maybe have Charlotte implications potentially for both programs. So when you look at what they have, I will tell you this. Casey Concepcion is a dude. Remember the name. The wide receiver for the Wolfpack is a very, very good football player. You're going to have Jordan Waters, who transferred in. So Dave Doran replaces his starting running back and replaces his starting quarterback, arguably got better at the quarterback position, and I might even say got better at the running back position, and you bring in two veterans. They've played a ton of football. Grayson McCall is, and Ralph, I know I'm going to say this, Grayson McCall is one of the more accomplished quarterbacks in the recent 5 years in terms of what he's been able to do, both statistically and winning-wise. Now, I know it's at the group of five level, but this is the definition of what people like about the transfer portal. A kid balling out, being able to do what he needs to do, and getting a chance to go up in competition. So I do like and I said this, I think Grayson McCall, coming into the season for me was a top 3 or top 4 quarterback in the conference just based off of what he's done. I believe I said he was top 5. So you look at that schedule with NC State, guys, week 2. I mean, that's what everyone's going to be circling. They're going to take on Tennessee. There is your marquee resume game. And people might be saying, well, Tennessee, whatever. Brand value. Beating Tennessee anytime you can beat an SEC team, especially if you're NC State, that's a big start. You're going to go to Clemson, who how to beat Clemson, and then you kind of wander in the wilderness of the ACC until you get to November 21st against Georgia Tech. I think that if you can find yourself 10-2, if you make a trip to Charlotte, NC State's going to be a playoff threat. So I like them at plus 425 to potentially make a move into the playoff. And other than like the other two guys, I think this is a true sleeper team when we talk about the college football playoff in terms of what they could do. I think it's a veteran coaching staff. Dave Doran, to me, is one of the more underrated coaches, and it's going to be interesting. We've got a nice little comment here. Scott Gaines says, love the picks, guys, except Wills. Keep up the good content. We appreciate it. Montega says, arguably got better than MJ Morris. You mean definitely got better. They did. They also had another young man starting for them, and because MJ Morris said he wasn't going to, I don't know what it was going to be. Dev says NC State is a great team. People forget them because they don't have the brand like the other NC schools. Starting to turn that corner, though, in recruiting. Dave Doran's a really, really good football coach. Will, we've talked about it. The ACC's full of them. The ACC has some really, really good football coaches that have to do a lot with a little. Dave Doran's been a guy that has been consistently had a good program up there in Raleigh.
Yeah, Dave Doran's been a guy that's been rumored for just about every big opening for the last 8 years. There's a reason for that. He's done great work at NC State. Really like this pick. If I was serious, if I was going to put my money where my mouth is, it'd be on NC State, not on North Carolina. But I just they're great.
Doran's record in Raleigh, 81-58 in 11 years in the program. He's got a 104-62 overall record. Good football coach, and wins a lot of games for a program that probably has overachieved when you look at their history as a program. Doran is going. Ralph, any kind of final thoughts on the Wolfpack? Well, Will's got something. Go ahead.
I make a joke, but hey, there was another guy who had the third most conference wins in all of FBS after the 2020 season. That guy got the job at Auburn, but Auburn couldn't have gone up to NC State and talked to this guy.
Well, I mean, I think you brought in a great quarterback with Grayson McCall. Obviously, he has done phenomenal things in the Sun Belt and in the Group of 5 level so far. I mean, take it what you want. I know people downgrade Group of 5 football. It's still Division I football, no matter where you go. He's a great quarterback. He's a great athlete. They beat some pretty good teams and competed against some really good teams also. I don't think it's going to be a bit big of a drop off for him. I think he's going to do exceptional there. He wouldn't be going there if he didn't think he could, honestly. Yeah. I mean, he probably had offers to all kinds of schools to transfer to, but he thought he could do some big things at NC State. So I got a really good idea for him. I think he's got a solid chance to compete in the ACC. So
I like it. I like it. All right, that concludes the ACC portion of the show. We're 40 minutes in this. We've gone through 2 of the Power 4 conferences, and one of them I could care less to talk about. But let's keep rolling. What's the next one?
Big 12.
Big 12.
Okay, I want to talk about the Big 12
Good.
because this guy's, and before we get there, Ralph, you can just take this banner away and you don't have to put up any one right now. Before we get here, this is a bloodbath conference. When you look at the odds and presented by Bet Online, make sure you check those out. When you look at the odds of this, like teams 1 through, I mean, honestly, who knows what's going to happen? We're going to talk on Wednesday night. We're going to give our conference title game and predictions. And kind of go into that. And then obviously next Monday, we're going to get into our full scale playoff as we get ready for week 0. But anything could happen in this conference. There's a lot of new faces in terms of coaches. There's old faces. I mean, I'm going to name a couple new coaches. All right. I just wanted to go do this. You have Arizona, obviously, Jed Fish, Dino Babers.
No, not
coaching.
Jed Fish.
No, I'm saying Jed Fish is gone. I was meant to say Brett Brennan's now the
okay.
head coach at Arizona. Dino Babers is going to be an OC in the Big 12 with Arizona. Pat Shermer is going to be there as the OC with Colorado. Continuing, Kevin Barbay, old Mississippi State offensive coordinator, going to be the OC under Willie Fritz at Houston. Jeff Grimes is new offensive coordinator at Kansas. And Ted Roof is back, ladies and gentlemen, as the DC over there in Orlando with
Hey,
UCF
I'll
Knights.
be talking about him. Just wait a minute. I'll be talking about Ted Roof.
Oh,
I
Jesus.
love this. I absolutely love this. Dev says the Big 12 could be the ACC Coastal as an entire conference. Coastal Chaos. Welcome to the, what do we call it? The Midwest something. I don't
Big
know.
12.
It's just the Big 12, whatever it is. Too bad our Tennessee fans not in here tonight. Talk about conference realignment. All right, so Ralph, I'm guessing we're starting off with you here once again. Your Big 12 sleeper team, which I'll stop you before you put it. Is anybody really a sleeper? Because who knows what's going to happen? You go ahead.
Will's odds are the biggest.
Oh, well, of course.
And not in a bad way.
Will's going to convince us why TCU is going to win the whole thing this year.
I
Nope.
promise
Here we go.
that's not who it is. I'm going with my dynasty team. I'm going to go with Texas Tech. I really like Texas Tech this year. I've been, low key kind of hating on Texas Tech the past few years ever since Patrick Mahomes has been gone. They've just been really nobody. Obviously, you think back to that year though, they had Mahomes versus Baker Mayfield, one of the greatest games in college football. If you love scoring, it truly was. This team though returns a lot of good talent, man. At quarterback, you got Baron Morton. I think he is going to be an absolute stud this year for them. You come back with your running back. Why am I blanking on his name right now? I just had it pulled up too. Taj Brooks, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You have Taj Brooks and Cameron Valdez and your running backs. You bring in 5-star receiver Micah Hudson, transfer receiver Josh Kelly from Washington State, and transfer receiver Caleb Douglas from Florida. You also bring in transfer tight end, who is an absolute freak, Jalen Conyers, 6'5", 265, the tight end. And is considered a receiving tight end, by the way, not a blocking tight end. This offense obviously brings in some other, offensive line transfers and returning starters. This team's really fun to watch defensively. They got better. I think this team's really, I wouldn't know the word young because Brent Morton's only a junior. 2-year running backs are sophomores and juniors. This team's going to be good for the next few years. I think the coaching staff's done really good there. They're getting better every day. I've started following them on Twitter more. I really like what they're doing. Brand new jerseys, man. I think that Lubbock, Texas is a place to go right now. I think they have a great powerhouse of a stadium. They're loud there. And their schedule this year, pretty favorable. I mean, you play your first conference game is, Arizona State, Cincinnati, and at Arizona. And you get Baylor, TCU, Iowa State, Colorado, Oklahoma State, West Virginia. I mean, you have a strong chance to win this conference pretty easily, in my opinion. I don't know who had the best odds in the Big 12, Will. I guess it's OK State or Kansas State, probably.
Utah.
Okay. Well, you don't have to face
I don't have the odds in front of me, but Utah is the favorite.
Oh, well, they have a 12-year starting quarterback.
Also true.
Sorry. But yeah, I think the schedule is favorable for this team this year. The Big 12, like we said, is going to be a bloodbath. I think whoever comes out of the Big 12 as the number one team is a lock for the playoff, obviously. But as a team, you don't want to play because they just ran through their conference and won because they just faced some really, really talented teams. Now, I'm not saying every team is going to be a solid A+ team on both sides of the ball, but some of these teams have really good defenses or really good offenses. You're going to have a hard time finding a team that has both.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. If they're balanced enough, I think that's what's going to be, big, especially in this conference. Like, I don't know if you could be dominant on one side of the ball. You'd rather just be good on both sides. That's probably going to get you, to a Big 12 title game. But no, I like that. I mean, a lot of variables in this conference, but Texas Tech is certainly one of those teams, Ralph, like I mentioned in the beginning, that's just kind of in the mix. They could finish 8th or 2nd, and I don't know if anyone would be super surprised on that. How it turns out. Will, any thoughts on the Raiders?
Raiders.
Yeah, their schedule. Yeah, sorry, I'm back now. Fun time, having a great time. I don't know.
Just go ahead.
Going to Arizona worries me. Going to Oklahoma State worries me. Going to Iowa State worries me. And I almost picked Iowa State as my sleeper because we know they're a tough out at home, especially when they're good. They should be better. Schedule's tough. It's a bloodbath. Anything can happen.
Yes, this is all things that are true. All things that are good. Will, your Big 12 sleeper. If it's Colorado, I'm leaving.
Oh, darn. You got to leave then.
You mentioned you teased it already. You said their defensive coordinator, the UCF Knights. They are my pick. When we talked about teams that overachieve, they were my pick. Vegas has them at 7.5 wins. I think that's crazy. They're my pick to win the Big 12. Their schedule is very easy. And it's Gus Malzahn. If you know me, you're not surprised. Looking at their schedule, they can get off to a hot start and not stop. Gus Malzahn teams, if they're on a roll, they're tough to beat. New Hampshire, Sam Houston to start the year 2-0, go to TCU. It should not be a concern. I think UCF has arguably and really one of the most underrated rosters in the Big 12 and maybe the best or second best roster in the Big 12, maybe behind Utah. And really the reason I like UCF so much is because I'm not as sold on Utah. Sure, they've got Cam Rising. He's very experienced, but he's injury prone. He's been hurt a lot in his time there. Hardest game for UCF is Utah. It's the last game of the year, and they got them at home. Toughest road game is going to Iowa State. I just mentioned they are a tough out at home, especially when they're good. I think they will be better. They're going to be tough to beat. UCF, they travel to Florida October 5th. October 5th is a great weekend just across the country. That's a huge resume builder for UCF. If they can knock off Florida and they make the Big 12 title game, we might see 2 Big 12 teams in the playoff. But, you look at UCF's roster, they bring in KJ Jefferson at quarterback. He comes in from Arkansas. Guy's stats are a lot better than you probably think. Completed 65% of his passes, 8.2 yards per pass, 67 touchdowns, 18 picks. Really, really good numbers. Nigel Kelly comes in on that defense, that new Ted Roof defense. He comes in from Miami. He's going to really bolster that pass rush. And, you mentioned Ted Roof. Ted Roof, ton of experience, national championship winning defensive coordinator. So he knows he and Gus have worked together before. They worked together at Auburn on that national championship team. I like UCF to win the Big 12, not just make the playoff, but I like them to win the Big 12.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. When we talked about overachieving teams, we put UCF in that category. KJ Jefferson, to me, should shine in a Gus Malzahn offense. I think he's going to have a little more explosive opportunities than he had at Arkansas, especially last season. RJ Harvey's the real deal. Can Kobe Hudson take the next step? A lot of different storylines there. And then when you look at that schedule, I mean, you're right, Will. Like, I will say some sneaky games. And I'll say this, a game I'd love to be at. In the Bounce House, November 2nd against Arizona. 2 of the best quarterbacks in the conference. And I believe it's Fafita, Fafita, however you say his name.
Noah Fafita. Right?
Yeah, that kid's really good, a really good quarterback and a really good young quarterback. So going to be a lot of fun games to watch. They just have to avoid what happened last year when they went on a run from September 23rd to October 28th and didn't win a football game. They can't let anything snowball. If they do, that's where I could see the season getting away from them. But that's kind of all I have on UCF. Ralph, any thoughts on the Knights?
No, I'm with Will though. I like what UCF's done. Obviously, the coaching additions this year really fun to watch. KJ Jefferson, I think he's in a new location, a new system. It's good for him. I think with working with RJ Harvey, Kobe Hudson, and he looks slimmer down. He looks like he's slimmed down too. He looks more athletic. Looks like he's ready to go this year. So UCF's a scary team again. I mean, they play a good schedule. They play a tough schedule, but it's a favorable schedule for them.
I think that Gus Malzahn has raised the floor at UCF. A couple of the coaches got them to a chance, like Scott Frost and those guys got them to an opportunity to where they could have a seat at the table. I think Malzahn is going to establish, probably like he's done everywhere, establish a good floor, and then he'll probably be out because people get unrealistic expectations. We're looking at you, Auburn fans. Anyways,
I said it when UCF hired him. He's going to get them in the playoff. I would stand by that if it was still a 14 playoff. But now that it's 12, it's easier. I also said when we talked about these guys being overachievers, do not be surprised if you see KJ Jefferson in New York at the end of the season. I have a lot of faith in this UCF team.
I love it. All right, I'm rocking with mine, and I'm excited to watch the Big 12 in general. And you talk about a guy that could probably make a case for a Heisman if he stays healthy. How about Jalen Daniels? Jalen Daniels.
Not to be confused with Jaden Daniels.
Yes. Jalen Daniels is going to give Kansas their best chance in God knows how long to win a Big 12 title. This is probably the best Kansas team that Lance Leipold. I believe so.
2008.
Lance Leipold is returning 30 seniors. A lot of those players are obviously back from last year's 9-win team. You have a veteran quarterback that is if healthy, is probably a top 10, top 12, top 15 quarterback in the country. And Jalen Daniels, he's dynamic. He can make the big play. He can win you a football game down 10 in the fourth quarter. This is a team that last year, and I know we say this so many times, guys, well, if then, if this, if that. This team was a couple plays away when you go back and look from being an 11-win or 12-win team. So they have obviously an opportunity here. They have what I love, a great combination of quarterback and running back. Devin Neal's a cheat code, not only in EA College Football 25, but Devin Neal is a cheat code in real life. I'm really excited to see what he does. They have Quentin Skinner, Lawrence Arnold, Luke Grimm, veteran, all seniors at the receiver position. But I think that when you look at what Kansas brings to the table, there's a chance for Les Miles brings it back. Okay, well, whatever. I'm not answering that question or doing that. Defensively, this is where they've got to be, better. They took a step forward last year. Can you get guys like Jerome Robinson, DJ Withers, and Kobe Bryant to take even another step? That's going to be the biggest thing. So I'm excited to see what Kansas does in 2024. You got them at plus 600. And the reason I'm not taking their arch rivals is because I think the Wildcats and Avery Johnson are going to go down to New Orleans in week 2 and lose to the fighting John Summeralls. So that's why I'm not taking them. So I think Kansas is a top 5 finisher in the Big 12 at the least. If Jalen Daniels stays healthy, if Daniels stays healthy, I think this is a playoff team. I think it could be a playoff team. So that's where I go. Big 12. Look at the Big 12. Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts, Will?
I do like Kansas. I like what Lance Leipold has done. Losing Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator, what does that look like? There'll be some tweaks to that offense. It was very unique. And what does it look like now? Does that get them off to a slow start and hurt their chances in the Big 12 and for the playoff race? I'll be keeping a close eye on them early on in the year. Yeah.
What it does do when you lose that offensive coordinator, you're just able to pronounce the new offensive coordinator's name better, Jeff Grimes, and not whatever came out of your mouth. Ralph, your thoughts on Kansas, because it's a veteran team and it's one of the better underrated quarterbacks I would say in the country.
Yeah, I've been saying this about Jalen Daniels for the last 2 years. If he just stays healthy, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's so
Yeah.
athletic, man. And I cannot remember the quarterback's name who was backup for him. Bean.
Jason Bean. Yeah.
Jason Bean. You want to talk about the most below average quarterback play and still won some games for them? If Jalen Daniels was playing,
Hopefully he's not watching.
Oh, it's fine with me. Ain't gonna hurt my feelings. I don't really care. I don't know nobody. Look, if Jalen Daniels plays in most of those games, you're not talking about a 9-win team. You're talking about a 10, 11-win team. I mean, they're super talented. Lance Leipold, obviously, coming from is it Whitewater? Was that where he's at beforehand?
And Buffalo.
Well, he's Buffalo
Whitewater,
before that, but yeah.
He's just been a winner though, and that's just they went and got someone who wins, and it's obviously shown that it's working. So, Kansas has got a good future ahead of them for once in football. I mean, for one, seriously, you think about it. You know, we always joke about, and Gavin said earlier they're waiting on basketball. Kansas is usually waiting on basketball. Honestly,
yeah.
This is the year they're actually excited for football.
Yeah, if you don't know about Jeff Grimes and his offense, just quick note, he loves the power run game. He's going to have that offensive line, I think, a lot better, a lot of downhill running in his offense. That should help Jalen Daniels take the pressure off him and take the hits off of him as well. So I really like this pick and really like that addition
we also
in that regard.
I can't believe Bryce didn't say it. I thought he was going to say it, but he didn't. What a great running backs coach they have there, though, also.
One of the best.
Friend of the show?
Yeah, friend of the show, Jonathan Wallace, former Auburn quarterback. That's a really good running back room they have out there in the with the Jayhawks. Okay, Big 12. Well, let's talk Big 10. I mean, is there a sleeper in this conference? Like, I don't care. Go ahead and put mine up real quick, Ralph. Yeah, go ahead and put mine up. So, here's mine. Don't care. If it's anybody but Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon, I mean, maybe USC. I got to see what they're going to look like in week 1. But I don't know. Like, I don't know. I will say this.
Will's going to make you mad, though.
I think that the Big 10 is going to be very hard to be a sleeper team and make the playoff. Because I think top heavy wise, the Big 10 is better than the SEC. Now, that might not be a popular pick, but I think it might just be in terms of that. And I think it'd be easier for a team like Kentucky, Auburn, Florida, not in this year, to make the playoff than it's ever going to be for a team like Indiana, Illinois. That's where I sit in that camp. I think the top heavy teams are too good. You're going to see when we unveil, our playoff next week, our individual playoff formats. But I'm just going to pick a team that I'm watching that's kind of near Big 10 country. It's going to be the Fighting Tyson Pumachons and UMass. So that's all I got to say about anything regarding that. So I don't want to talk about the Big 10, but I'll let you fellas take it.
Bryce, I'm glad you said that because I'm ready to prove you wrong.
Go ahead. Do it. Let's do it.
You want to go first this time?
I'll go first. Yeah, come get some. Iowa plus 650. Here's why. As Bryce is going to get up and go because he don't want to hear any of this. Iowa's schedule is manageable. Wouldn't necessarily call it easy. They do have to travel to Ohio State, and that's their only in the preseason. Their only ranked opponent is Ohio State preseason. They host Washington. They go to Michigan State. They do travel to Iowa, and then the next week travel to Maryland. So they got some brutal scheduling in November. But a couple of things here. Tim Lester is the new offensive coordinator. The offense should be a lot more wide open. He's a guy that's run a spread offense in the past. So should be a lot more open, be a lot more fun to watch. Cade McNamara's back. Remember, he got hurt last year. He's a Michigan transfer. I don't think he's going to stick as a starter. If you saw his scrimmage stat line from Saturday, I kid you not, that was probably the worst scrimmage stat line I've ever seen from somebody that a presumed starting quarterback. They bring in Northwestern transfer Brendan Sullivan at quarterback. I think that's going to be their guy. If Brendan Sullivan is their guy, they should have much improved quarterback play. We know the defense is going to be good. Yeah, they lose Cooper DeJean, but they can replace him. Kirk Ferentz is a great defensive coach. That cannot be argued. It'll be good. The schedule's easy. if their offense, if they can just get into the top 70, I think we're looking at a playoff team. I think regular season, if Brendan Sullivan's their quarterback, they got improved quarterback play. The offense is just a little bit better. This could be a 10-win team. They're still a good football team. They can do things. They're still going to be able to run the ball. They can just get a little bit in the passing game. You're looking at a 10-11 win team. Is that going to be enough to make the Big Ten championship game? Probably not, I wouldn't say. But in one of those at-large spots, I think Iowa can do it.
Look,
Bryce
man,
is still not back.
Yeah, no, I don't
want to talk about it.
Look, man, I gotta say one thing about Iowa. They have a tough one September 14th. They gotta be worried about that game.
They got a tough one every week, man. It's not a real football program.
Look, then Troy Trojans come to town September 14th. You gotta be worried. You gotta be scared.
I'm the biggest Troy fan in the world for that game.
Look, I don't know much about Iowa this year. I've seen the videos from that practice on Saturday. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And if that's coming out of your starting quarterback this year in a scrimmage game, I don't think he's prepared to play a college football down this year. It doesn't look like it. Their defense is going to be the only thing that can carry them.
That's why I told you. That's what I told you. Brendan Sullivan is going to be their quarterback, the Northwestern transfer.
You're probably right.
Y'all need to start an Iowa podcast.
I don't think I'm going to talk about Iowa. Just with Will.
3 yards in a cloud of dust.
I really don't know what to say about Iowa.
Just move on to yours, please.
I don't even want to talk about mine as much. Mine's just, I don't know what to say. Miller Moss is an insanely good quarterback. That's really
Ralph is going USC at plus 425.
Yeah, USC plus 420. Someone said Nebraska was media's favorite. I thought about it, but I also had Nebraska earlier this summer with an under a win total. So I don't think that choosing them as a sleeper would be really good for me. I'm going USC. I think they've got all kind of talent in the world. Can they get a defense to stop somebody? Probably not. It's just going to be shootout after shootout with them all year long. Can they outscore somebody? Hopefully. That's Zachariah, if I say it right, Zachariah Branch. Is that how you say it?
Zachariah Branch.
Is it Zachariah? Oh, I'm just an idiot. Zachariah Branch, obviously, their number one receiver this year. They bring in Jay Fair from Auburn. I don't think he's, much of an improvement to that receiver room, but he does help out. He still was a very, solid receiver for Auburn. Either that really quarterback could throw the ball to him. So Miller Moss, obviously, we didn't get to see much of him last year until the bowl game when he went out there and balled out and threw for like 460 yards and like 4 touchdowns. The kid's got a cannon, and USC's really high on him and really excited for him this year. So I'm going USC just as a team that can maybe just, if they win 9 games, possibly get in there. I don't know. Big Ten, look, Bryce said it right. The Big Ten is so top heavy. It's Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State. Those are the 4 teams really. The ones below them are like 7-8 win teams this year. They're not getting in.
I thought about taking Michigan State. Is Aiden Childs going to be a dude? Like, could he pop off? I don't know. USC's not bad. Wisconsin, maybe. I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't think that anybody can. And Clayton keeps saying Rutgers.
They're our cover wagon, okay? Just look.
But they're not making the playoff, man. No. Like, they're not clip that, Rutgers fans, if you exist. I mean, there's no chance they're making the playoffs. So that's the Big Ten. All right, let's move along here. We're over an hour on the airwaves here. We did take the liberty of taking a group of 5 sleeper pick. Now, look, the popular ones have obviously been the team that has the best odds per pretty much any outlet in Liberty to go undefeated. Liberty has the best odds of any college football team because they legitimately play a JV schedule. Yep. No offense to Kennesaw State and the Owls. I did spend my freshman year there in my friends of the program. I did spend my freshman year there in my Road to Glory. But Tulane, Memphis, like all these programs that people expect to be well. Clayton is an absolute sicko over here for even suggesting that. I spent some time down at Sunbelt Media Days, and so got a good feel of like that conference. I think I don't know who you guys have selected, but Ralph, we'll go with you first. I'm sure you have selected, a quarterback with his first name is literally that of a bird. But
Yes.
you can, we're going to be at a game this year for them this year. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
It would do no justice for me not to choose the Troy Trojans this year.
It would if you wanted to be realistic, but I also understand where you come from.
Look, I like what Troy's got this year. I've been kind of low key hating on what
Homer.
Yeah,
Homer.
We're just gonna mute him real quick. I've been kind of low key hating on what Troy's got this year offensively. The last few years with John Sermole, the defense has been probably the focus point of this team. And last year's offense was outstanding with Kamani Vidal obviously going to the NFL and every other weapon leaving. Okay. Look, I like what Parker's done there. I think Goose Crowder is a really talented quarterback. The additions at running back this year are pretty shocking. Damian Taylor, Gerald Green, and Tay Meadows. These guys are some dogs down there. It saddens me though to talk about the receiving class because returning your number one receiver and he is not eligible to play football this year due to injury. He had a very sad ending to his career. So Chris Lewis will not be on the field for Troy this year, which is sad to say because he was so good last year for them. And obviously Peyton Higgins, Zariah Beeson, and Devontae Ross are going to be your number one receivers. The defense obviously needs to step up. I mean, you lost a lot last year. You lost basically your whole secondary to the transfer portal. Most of them going to, sadly, Tulane following Summerall. It's sad to say that. You bring in some pretty good guys. I think LJ Green's going to do great as a true freshman for Troy this year. And I think this is a good team. The schedule it's tough at the beginning of the year. It truly is. You're talking about, you play Nevada at home, possibly a pretty good win. You go to Memphis and to Iowa back-to-back weeks. You probably face one of the two, if not one, not number two best G5 team in the country. And then you have to go to a team that has no offense whatsoever and plays nothing but defense and kicks field goals in week 3. And honestly, that's what it is. But your conference schedule it favors you. You get Texas State at home. You get Coastal at home. You go to South, which Troy's beaten them the last 6 years. No matter who they've had on their team, who's coaching it, they've won 6 years in a row. So I feel good about this team this year. If you'd asked me about this like in May, I probably would have said maybe a 7-win team at most. But I'm feeling good this year.
Okay. Well,
I'm excited to go see them play in Bryce's favorite city in America.
Yes.
Mobile. I'm excited for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'll say this. I really was impressed with Jared Parker at Sunbelt Media Days. I know Will texted in our group like that's a guy that feels like they made the right hire in terms of, a program that's had success and needing to continue that. You can check out that interview on our channel as well. But Ralph, not a bad pick. I mean, the Sunbelt's I think Sunbelt's probably the best G5 conference top to bottom. American probably has better playoff contender teams, but top to bottom competitively, this conference is so much fun to watch, and we're going to have a bigger pulse on the action of what happens in the Sun Belt this year. Will, your group of 5 program, who you looking at as a sleeper one?
Low hanging fruit, Memphis. I kind of looked at this as every G5 team being a sleeper, just because there's only room really for one. I think I don't really see any G5 team being in the top 12 come the end of the season, so they'll just get plopped into that 12 seed. But I'm going to go Memphis. They come back they had the highest scoring offense in the American last year, 39 points a game. Quarterback Seth Hittigan's back. Great quarterback. Almost 4,000 yards passing. The top 2 receivers, not just at Memphis, but in the entire American Conference, come back in Rock Taylor and Demir Blakumsey. Too many weapons on offense. Their defense has got to get better. It was really bad last year. Gave up over 400 yards a game and 28 points a game. And their defense, this note, shocked me how bad the defense was. They allowed 80 plays longer than 20 yards last season and 38 plays of over 30 yards. If they can limit the big plays, they should win the American. I think. I know Tulane's good, but I think if they can limit plays, they've got a good shot of winning the American, and they've got a huge opportunity. Week 3, or is it? Yes, week 3, because Florida State's on a bye. They travel to Florida State. Opportunity to make a huge statement and resume, a jewel on their resume if they can go down to Tallahassee and beat Florida State. I think would make them a lock for the playoff if they just hold serve in the American.
Yeah, I mean, the American Conference, you take Tulane, you take Memphis. I had looked at a couple other ones. I don't know who you guys put down for me quite yet, but it feels like the likely candidate to be the G5 representative, if it's not Liberty, is going to be one of those two programs, or one of those two conferences, Sun Belt or American. The MAC doesn't. I mean, they've got maybe Northern Illinois, maybe. I don't. But outside of that, I mean, we're over an hour. I don't care to really go into what's that going on. So let's see here. Which ones you guys put for me? Let's see. What'd you do? I already saw it. Texas State plus 1,200. I'm really high on USF. And the reason I'm putting Texas State is when I was sitting at my table in New Orleans, and they gave me a table right here, baby. When I was sitting there and getting ready to do a bunch of interviews, Texas State walked in like they already owned the place. And that could be dangerous. That could be, it could be a lot of different things. We'll say that. But Texas State walks in, and essentially, one thing is talking to some people and they compare it to, they did what Colorado did, but I think they did it better in terms of they completely flipped this roster. Not only did you flip the roster, you brought in the best quarterback in the conference in Jordan McLeod, and one of the best group of 5 quarterbacks in the country. McLeod is a dude. Him and Joey Aguilar are probably the 1A, 1B in this conference. But McLeod won the offensive player of the year last year, was very good at James Madison. Texas State had a weird quarterback situation going into the offseason where it was going to be Finley. Finley leaves. Also, Western Kentucky wouldn't be a bad pick in the Conference USA if they could run the table either. But I really like what they did. They have some veteran talent. They brought in a lot of guys. Defense has to be better. I mean, Ralph, I'm sitting here looking at this. Shout out Logan Whaley and good friend of the program, Butch Jones. They gave up 77 to Arkansas State in a loss last year. They gave up an average of 32.8 points per game. That has to be better. But if they can find a way to get to double-digit wins before a conference title game, and that's going to be my floor for a Sun Belt team making the playoff. If you can be 10-2 rolling into the conference title game, you've got a shot. You've got a shot. And you look at their schedule, they're going to play Arizona State in week 3. If they beat Arizona State, that's a big notch in the belt of them being able to have that P4 win. They're going to play Lamar. I didn't know that, former FCA director of the Muskogee County area, the Lamar Weaver, was hosting a college now, but they're going to be playing that team. And so UTSA in week 2, they lost their 9th-year quarterback that had been there for 40,000 years. So I like what Texas State could do. And guys, we'll just kind of end it with this. Like, the qualifications for a G5 team, like the American, you could probably be a 2-loss conference champion and get in. I will tell you this, and Liberty's got a good football team. I'm going to be really ticked if they're the representative this year. I just will, because if you have and we had it last year with the American Conference, like you could have taken the winner of the American Conference or the runner-up and said those two teams are better than or maybe the top 3 teams in the American you could have taken. Ralph, I don't remember the Sun Belt standings last year. Who the conference or what was Troy's final record last year?
They finished in 11-3 overall and 11-2 in the fourth bowl game.
I would have rather seen 11-2 Troy as the winner of the Sun Belt, and I'm correct in that, play rather than Liberty. I will really. The Conference USA has a niche. It's a transitional conference, and that's fine. Liberty needs to move along. Liberty needs to join the Sun Belt. Like, if you want to keep some, play up there, like Old Dominion plays there. I just think we sit in that. I'm going to be frustrated if we sit there with Liberty. That's not a knock. Knock against them. Jamie Chadwell's a good coach. They got a good quarterback. They had one of the best receivers. Now he's at LSU from last year. CJ Daniels. Like, they've got a good roster. You're going to either have to schedule 4 ridiculous out of conference teams, or you can't keep playing borderline FCS schools, and that's what they do. That's why I will be frustrated. I either want to see a Sun Belt team, but what would be your guys' floor as we wrap it up? Like, can a 2-loss Sun Belt champion make it, or should they? I think they should over
like,
Liberty.
App State 2-loss is pretty good,
Especially if they were to upset a Clemson, or they even if one loss is a close loss to Clemson.
I don't know that you can afford to drop a game in conference, or more than one game in conference. But you got to schedule P4 teams. You say Texas State goes to Arizona State. Arizona State's not a great team, but that looks good on a resume. But I like your pick a lot for a lot of the reasons you said. Jordan McLeod, GJ Kinney, another young coach that is on the path to being a superstar. The way he flipped that roster, he's done a lot of good things in a short time. I like Texas State.
Well, here's the team that can do it. Well, you mentioned you could only have one loss in conference play. If App State loses to Clemson close in week 2, you got to think that could be a potential upset. Look, App State's a good football team, one of the best Group of 5 quarterbacks, and we're not saying that because of what happened in 07. They have a good football team right now, not on paper but proven. Clemson's going to be coming off an emotional game, win or loss against Georgia in week 1. If App State loses close to Clemson and then let's say they drop a close one. Also, they played Liberty, by the way. Now I know why I picked App State back in the spring, because if App State beats Liberty head to head, and they need to be in. Like, if you beat what potentially is going to be an undefeated Liberty team, sorry to kind of go back on that, but that's just kind of my thoughts. I like App State probably instead of Texas State, but that's probably my sleeper team.
It's a good point you bring up App State, because the Sun Belt is unique and they still have divisions. That Eastern Division, a lot of people know how I feel about the program in Atlanta, but that Sun Belt Eastern Division is weaker top to bottom than the West. And so App State's a good shout if they can beat Liberty and can cruise through their side of the Sun Belt and win it. I like them.
Yeah, I don't like.
Any final thoughts?
I hate that Troy's not playing App State this year. I love that rivalry between each team. I mean, you go back to 2 years ago when game day was there, and everyone was
awesome.
App State was going to blow them out, and Troy just kept it in there. And then, obviously the ending was heartbreaking for Troy fans, but it shows you what the Sun Belt was really capable of that year. You had some really talented teams that year out of the Sun Belt. Troy obviously was the champion that year and went on to play UTSA in a bowl game. It was a good year for Group of 5 schools that year in 2022 and especially last year. So can App State get back to the championship game and hopefully host it? We'll see, because Sun Belt does not play a neutral site championship game.
I love the Sun Belt because of that. They have stayed true to the traditional roots of college football. Regional rivalries is amazing and awesome, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah,
where you would put a neutral site game.
Birmingham.
Hey, I know a spot. Columbus.
Oh, Jesus.
Put it in Columbus.
Well, you would have to get shot if you did that, and no one wants to see that. All right, let's talk. Let's stop talking. We've gone on for an hour and 20 minutes, full-scale preview. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you want to just say, hey, I'm a fan of this conference, you can check those VODs out on the channel as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And shout out to all the people watching. Very consistent viewership, stayed pretty much level, and continue to grow throughout the show. We appreciate that as well. And look, a bunch of different things where you can follow us. Follow us on all social media platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to Believe, making us a partner with them. And obviously Bet Online, where you can place all of your bets and get those odds right now. You can check that at betonline.com. And, man, we're going to have a great time talking college football all season long. Reminder of the show schedule. Every single Monday and Wednesday night we are live. This upcoming Wednesday, we're going to be talking conference champ title game previews. What 2 teams are going to make it there? And maybe we talk about who wins. I don't know if we want to get into that, because next Monday we're going to get into our official kind of playoff predictions. And then, fellas, we got college football to talk about. This is the final week where we don't have to talk about anything other than, we can talk about actual games, and I'm pumped for that. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, all those great things, and we will catch you next time here at the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.